Hey, is chasing rapid growth putting your profits at risk? Join me and my guest, Manny Skevofilax. I'm going to get this right, Skevofilax, who is a seasoned consultant and expert in sustainable business growth, as we uncover why bootstrapping might be your smartest way to scale. Manny will share ideas why you don't need outside investors to grow your business, how to avoid sacrificing your profits for growth, and the secrets to maintaining steady, controlled progress. So if you're ready to scale smarter and more sustainably, this episode of Profit with a Plan is packed with actionable insights that you don't want to miss. So join us on today's show. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you ready to boost your profit and grow your business? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we share ideas to help you scale your company, increase your profitability, and set you up for a successful exit. I am your host, Marcia Riner, business growth strategist and profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs build highly profitable and sale-ready businesses. See, the more money now or more profits now lead to bigger payouts later on. By the way, today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. And if you're ready to take that business of yours to the next level, visit infiniteprofitconsulting.com and start boosting your bottom line today. But before we dive in, I've got something super special for you. If you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but you just weren't getting the traction you deserved, well, here's a tip for you. Try customer reviews and see how they can be your secret weapon to attracting new clients and boosting trust. That's why I'm excited to share our free growth and marketing audit with you on profitbooster.biz. In just one session, we'll show you how to turn your reviews into real growth. And if you're ready to stand out, visit profitbooster.biz and get things started. All right, let's jump into today's episode with our guest. Manny Skevofilax is the CEO of Portal CFO Consulting. He's a consultant, speaker, author, and who has helped business owners maximize profits and overcome growth challenges. As an expert in strategic planning, financial statement analysis, operations, organizational development, and team building, Manny's been achieving extraordinary outcomes for his clients since 2003. But prior to starting his consultancy, he was the vice president with Co-America Bank, which is a U.S.-based commercial lending institution, which puts just a little sprinkle of a challenge on our topic today. So he's got a new book out right now that he's promoting called The Ultimate Profit Management, which is maximizing profitability as you grow your business. So Manny, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast. I'm super excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me on your show, Marcia. Happy to be here.
Great, great. So I love that we're, both same-minded here, growth, profitability, and, making sure that you're growing within this realm of balance, I think, is really important. And so that's why I was really excited to have you on. But before we get started, I always love to know how you got into this, which is kind of strange because it's the polar opposite of what you used to be as a commercial banker, right?
Yes. Actually, I grew up in the restaurant business. My parents immigrated from Greece after World War II, and a lot of Greeks got into the restaurant business. So that's where I learned about doing math in your head and costing and stuff like that. And I was going to school because my parents told me, hey, we don't have $1 million to leave you. You better make sure you get an education, because ours was interrupted. They weren't able to finish because of the war. So I kept going to school, and I did decide to make that career change into corporate banking, which was awesome. I had a lot of great teachers and mentors. And then after about 9 years, I decided I wanted to hang my shingle out, and I took the challenge to hang a shingle out and be a business consultant. I help business owners maximize profits and overcome growth challenges.
Love it. Love it. Well, I think it's kind of funny how you were in the commercial lending space and you realized something that was really important to businesses, that maybe you don't always need to go into a lot of debt to grow, right?
Yes, there were a lot of interesting lessons that were taught to me. I had great teachers and mentors, one of which was a customer, a business never went out of business from having too much debt. It was the inability to service that debt. This was like
Mm.
a joke that they were saying inside the bank. I was like, okay.
Well, who's the joke on? Is the joke on the business owner or the bank for lending it?
Yeah, it's actually the joke is unfortunately on the banker as well, but I guess they needed a little bit of humor in that sad situation.
Of course.
But it was a
So
good learning experience.
exactly,
Mhm.
and I think people forget that, or, business owners forget that it's like, okay, you need this debt to do something, right? You're either going to buy more equipment, you're going to venture into a new market, you're going to hire some new employees that are going to help you grow. But you forget that you've got to have the money to pay monthly or pay back the debt that you borrowed, right? I mean, we came out of COVID
Mhm.
and, everybody got a whole bunch of free money and it kind of, some of it disappeared and, but it's like in reality, though, if you borrow this money, your business needs to be profitable enough to pay it back.
Yes. And, we found that a lot of times you're borrowing money because your business is losing money. It's unprofitable and it's
Mm.
creating a drag in there. And the easiest way to plug it, if you can, is to go borrow some money.
Hmm. Okay. So it is good to borrow some money when you're needing it to get to that next level, but you've got to have something like in the near future that's going to be that big win, right? And that's
Yeah,
going to allow you to pay that back, right?
exactly. You have made an excellent point. Um, you don't want to be unprofitable and then having to borrow money. You got to fix the problem. And then two, to your point, which is excellent, you got to make sure that you have the means to pay it back.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this in a positive way, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody knows you get some money, you can get money for business, you can do things. We know your credit scores and your business credit scores and all that kind of stuff. But I think I want to take the other side of it and talk to business owners about how to maybe not take money and
Mhm.
still be able to grow your business in a way that is sustainable, right?
Mhm.
There are many options that we can take to do that, and it's not always digging in your savings account and mortgaging your family's house, but there's ways to grow, right?
Yes. One of the topics that you and I chatted about was bootstrapping, which is a very old concept. And to keep it simple, you've started a business, you've got, let's just say, one customer, you're profitable, you're able to pay all of your expenses, there's money left over. Great. All you have to do is replicate that model. That's really what bootstrapping is.
Okay, so to really further simplify that,
Mhm.
bootstrapping is not managing the business in a way, it's actually finding more customers that match the customer that you have. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that I always feel like I'm coming into the middle of the story with some of my comments, and I want to start at the beginning, right? We
Okay.
have to make sure we're selling. We have to make sure we have a product or service that the market, that customer wants. And then we have to make sure that we can make a profit because every business's overhead structure is different. The
Mm.
financial demands that Marcia's business is placing on her business she can handle, but Manny's placing too many financial demands on his business, which can't handle it. So we got to make sure we have a product that people want and customer service. We're taking care of the customer. We got to be doing what I call the checkables
Checkables.
and the checkables. And then we're going to start bootstrapping by this doing this repetitive task by not trying to go borrow money from the SBA or rating our savings accounts by using a little bit of the profit to go after the next customer.
Love that. Okay, so first of all, checkables. What are checkables?
In my opinion, those are the easy things that are like right under our nose. You don't have to expend a lot of brain power, a lot of thinking. It's literally right under your nose. Let me
The
check the things
low-hanging
that are
fruit.
like, that are like right within my arm's reach. Those are the checkables, the easy stuff.
Okay. So now that we get our easy stuff and
Mhm.
sorry, and I did jump ahead here. I would have assumed that we already know we have a product that's working and you've got a customer and you're selling, right? So my apologies for jumping ahead on that, but in thinking on that kind of basis, right? We're going to, I always thought of bootstrapping really as looking at your business in a way that says, just like you said, right? We're going to take what we already have and we're going to use it smarter and more efficiently. And we're
Mhm.
going to use that to feed the next growth opportunity that we have, right? So it's kind of like a little bit of savings that a lot of US Americans don't often do, right? If you get paid
Mhm.
$100, 20% of that should go into savings or however, whatever that magic number is. Well, in business, we should be doing that too, right?
Yes, that's very well said, Marcia. Um, if you start a business, yes, you're going to have ups and downs, financial ups and downs. Okay, it's not easy when you get started, but let's assume that you've gotten through the ups and downs, and then we get to your point. If your business is making $1,000 in profit in a year, let's keep the number simple, and you got to pay around 35% of that to taxes. So there's going to be 650 bucks left over in profit. If you then, as the owner, take all that money out, that's your growth capital.
Hmm.
You take all that money out and take it to the house. And now I'm hoping that you got a salary baked in there for yourself as well, right?
Let's hope
Not
so.
really, not really a true business until you can cross that bridge as well, right? There has to be a salary baked in, and then there's money left over. If you can leave a piece of that money in the company, you have just created your growth capital.
Mm,
But
love
but
that.
demands come from the house, and sometimes you place more demands on your business than your business can afford to pay you.
Really true. In
Mhm.
so many different avenues that we look at or that we often don't look at and we just do blindly, right? Which is we run expenses through that maybe we shouldn't run through the business because our tax professional says we need a deduction, right? Because you don't want to pay taxes. There's all sorts of things, like you said, those demands that maybe don't need to be put on the business at this time in this growth phase, right?
Yes.
So
So
when
now that, yes.
I was going to say, so when we're looking at these kind of numbers, right? Since you're financial analysts, and understanding the financial statements and so on, when we're looking at these numbers, what are some of the areas that the business owner can do to keep that money, right? To look at that, to
Mhm.
look at the bottom line, and if I'm only getting 650, well, what can I do to maybe get 700 or 750, in that pot at the end of the year?
That is a great question, Marcia. In my experience, the easiest way is to take a look at your income statement or profit and loss, because we have to have two names for everything in finance. So take a look at your P&L and look at every expense and tell yourself, hey, how does this expense translate to revenue for my firm?
Mm,
And it'll give you some eye-opening information. So you might find some expenses that do not translate into revenue that you could stop doing those expenses, which would then create more profit for you to use to grow.
I mean, of course, duh, right? But duh is not really reality for a lot of business owners. So you just brought up a point that was so simple and such checkables or low-hanging fruit for a business owner, but so many like zoom over that and don't even look at that option because they're so busy chasing customers and putting out fires. But one of the best things that you just said here was to go, hey, let's check our expenses that we're running through our business, and does it produce a revenue?
Yes.
Does it lead to a revenue? Does it support anything that
Mhm.
belongs to revenue growth? Whew, that's a lot of money being left on the floor.
It could be.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the ideas? Like, what are some of the common things that we miss, right? Maybe we can give the business owners that are listening a couple of ideas or triggers that they can go in and look for.
Sure. One of my favorites, and it's also very difficult, is when should you hire somebody? Do you hire before you've got the contract signed? During the process of getting the contract signed, or after it's signed and the ink's drying? Because as human beings, we're very enthusiastic and positive. You're like, I'm going to hire this person now. The pipeline looks strong. Well,
Mm.
you have just placed unnecessary strain on financial strain on your business and unnecessary stress on yourself, because if that deal that you were counting on doesn't close, it could create a financial crisis for you.
Okay, so that becomes the balancing act, and we know
Hmm.
that human capital, our human people in our business, is
Hmm.
probably the biggest expense we have and the most valuable expense that we have. And we know that hiring and training takes time and effort. And it's like, I think the business owner is thinking, well, maybe I'll just get ahead of that and train them now so that when that customer starts, I'm not shuffling and juggling around trying to train Susie Q on how to implement the
Hmm.
system we're trying to deliver. So it's like a double-edged sword then. Do I hire sooner or do I hire
Hmm.
afterwards and then try and train and struggle with the new customer?
That's an excellent point you make. Let me give an example. So Marcia has been watching her dollars and cents, and she's got cash in her business because she hasn't been taking that whole 650 home. She's been leaving 300 in there or 400. So she has the ability to bring Susie Q on and take her time and train her and get her ready. That's the A player. Manny, the B player, he has not been taking any money. He takes all the money because he's got demands from his house that are more than the business can pay. And Manny does not have the flexibility to hire that person and train them over a couple months and take the risk that that deal does not close. That's the difference.
Got it. So how does Manny get a team member on board then? Does he wait until that ink is dry and the first check
Mhm.
has come in? Then Manny runs out and hires Susie Q and starts to train her and juggle that around. I mean, in hindsight, Manny should have been
Yeah,
good at putting money away, but he didn't. So
right.
how does he still function?
Exactly what you just said. It's going to be a lot of stress and a lot of long hours, and hopefully the lesson gets learned the first or
Mm.
second time on why it's important to keep some cash, create why it's important to keep cash in your business to grow.
Yeah. I think it goes back to that. And neither one of us, I don't believe, are profit first type folks, but and consultants in that way. But I think that we do. We need to have that kind of I think if we had a line item on our expenses that said reserve, right?
I like it.
You
Uh-huh.
know, and we paid that line item each month a percentage, a certain percentage. So if I made $100, maybe $5 a month goes into that reserve. Then I'd be building it up slowly and not have to worry about when the profit came at the end
Mhm.
of the year and I had my house expenses. I'm line iteming that reserve.
Mhm.
So that money's
May,
in there just in case too.
may I say with great respect, I think that's a fantastic idea.
I love it. See, that's what
I'm
happens
gonna.
when two bright minds get together. I mean, yours is brighter than mine,
uh,
but when we're together, we come up with great ideas. And I think that's what
mhm.
the business owner needs to see is that,
Mhm.
oh, there is a different way of doing it, right? And when you hire experts that, like yourself, Manny, that's a CFO that's run companies before that help businesses from the outside in,
Mhm.
then they're able to go, oh, about that. But because we're on the outside, we've got some ideas that maybe they haven't thought of.
Yes, I think that's a great idea because I'm a visual learner. Most of my clients are visual learners, and to put that reserve, on the P&L so you can see it, what is that? That's your money that you're saving. I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah. See, great,
Mhm.
great ideas. I'll only take 20%. No, I'm kidding. So,
That's reasonable. That's a great
exactly,
ROI.
right?
Mhm.
So in looking at these ideas, and this is what we want, this is the true bootstrapper, right? So they're able to have money in reserve to be able to make decisions, to be able to take care of opportunities, right? Susie Q is an amazing hire opportunity that's going to free up a lot of time on Manny's business or Marcia's business, and they're going to be able to do so much more in that growth. But because they thought in advance and ran their business a little bit leaner
Mhm.
and put a little bit away, they're able to take advantage of those kind of things. And I think that's what
Absolutely.
business owners need to hear rather than going, oh, nothing against tax professionals. I love them. And yes, you should have them all the time. But they're always, how do we get money out of the business so you don't pay taxes when we're trying to go, well, it's still a business. You got to show some profits at the end of the year to show that you're you're a business, right?
Yeah, and that banker is not going to lend to you if you're presenting a financial statement uh, that shows you're not making money. You don't
Mm,
have a viable business in their eyes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, as a professional banker and now turned consultant, is there any kind of magic that the business owner wants to have? Magic number, I guess, was the line in that reserve account or in that profitability that makes that business look better?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Marcia. So I found that keeping 2 months of your total expenses, 2 months in the bank should provide you with a reasonable cushion. Okay. And I'm making a general statement because
Sure.
all,
But
all
that's totally
businesses are
doable.
different, but it's hard. You know, it is hard and it takes time. I'd like to say that this stuff doesn't happen in a month or two. It takes
Mm.
years to get yourself into a nice, solid financial position while you're navigating a whole bunch of risks.
Okay, so I thought it sounded easy, but yes, you're right. It is probably pretty hard because as a young business, we are investing everything we've got back into the
Yeah.
company and for the things
Mhm.
that we want to do, whether we're looking at a new marketing strategy or we're looking at a new piece of equipment that we want that's going to streamline the process or a new software tool or a new Suzy Q to come in and take over that responsibility. I mean, there's always that strain on a company, right?
Absolutely.
So when we're looking at companies to grow, right? I'm a firm believer that growth in my mind is not market domination and, taking over
Mhm.
Amazon, but it's a steady positive increase month over month, year over year, right?
Love your definition. It's ideal. Yes.
Perfect.
Right.
So when we're growing, and a lot of people throw that word scale out. Um, what are your thoughts? Now I'm hearing a lot that you grow first and scale afterwards, right?
It depends. Let's talk about it a little bit. Yeah. So scale, in my opinion, is the ability to handle more transactions. That's my opinion. Now, everybody has a different one. And then that growth is the actual dollar volume that the company's growing. So if we're doing, $1 million in sales now, and it's, I don't know, let's just say it's 20 invoices a month. Do we have what it takes to handle 40 invoices a month and still take care of our customers? Do we have those systems that you referenced, right? The software, the technology, the stuff. So I think
Wow.
that's something that has to be in that business owner's thoughts.
I like that. But do we have to double the number, or what if we just went from 20 to 25?
Again, that's an excellent point. That's one of the things that I kept seeing over and over again. The customers were setting unreasonable growth goals. I'm sorry, the business owners. So yes, to your point, you don't have to you can go from 20 to 25. And it's actually recommended because there's less stress placed on you and your team from a mental stress perspective. there's less financial stress as well.
Mm. And you don't have to scale dramatically to service those extra five people. Maybe it's an extra hour of overtime or something that allows the profitability to maybe build a little bit, get
Yeah,
that
that's
reserve account a little bit higher, and so you strain a little bit on the company's
mhm.
resources for a short while until it gets almost unbearable, and then maybe you scale. And then you scale smartly, right? And looking at the what's the first thing, the absolute that you need on there, right?
That's really very well said, Marcia. I mean, that's the recipe, you know? Don't
I think
rush,
so. That's the way
slow and
I think,
steady,
but there's so many people that do it the other way. Why is that?
because we're human beings and we like action. We like stuff that's fun. We don't want to be boring. You know, we love a challenge. The list goes on and on.
Mm.
It's bombarding us all the time on social media. I got to have $1 billion valuation. I got to become a unicorn. No, back to what Marcia was saying. Grow your business 5, 10, 15% a year, whatever you can handle comfortably, where you're not running around trying to find cash, right? Grow it profitably, take care of your employees, right? The number one asset. Take care of your family, of course, and then be able to make your charitable donations to the community. What's wrong with that, right?
I don't think there's anything wrong with
Yeah.
that.
It's not fun, right?
And I think that the business owners that actually do that
Mhm.
are happier than the ones that are completely stressed out, that are borrowing money from Shopify to pay for the loan that they had over here, or they're going out and they're looking for equity lines and they take them and they use them too many times or use it to the maximum just to chase something that seems crazy.
Mhm. We have what I like to call the illusion of wealth in the United States. And it's
Yes.
brought on, in my experience, by easy access to capital. We're the only country in the world where, so for example, I got my first credit card when I was 18 years old. It came to my mom and dad's house, but it had my name on it, Marcia.
Wow.
And I charged that $500 limit in about a day, and I couldn't pay it back. I was having a hard time paying it back.
Because you didn't have a
And
job, but they gave you a credit
right,
card.
uh-huh. So yes, to your point, I found that slow and steady wins the race. I don't want to have a business where I have, 5 or 10 good years and then all of a sudden I'm out of business.
Mm,
That's the sustainable part, right? Let's build something that lasts,
I love it. So when we're
right?
talking about sustainable, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
an easy 3, 4, 5% growth. Okay, let's stretch it and say 10%. If you have a banner
Mhm.
year, it's 12 or 15%.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so bad that you I mean, we all got into this business. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? To have the lifestyle that we wanted, right?
Uh,
To the freedom and the financial freedom that we wanted,
uh-huh.
the
To work
but
more
then
hours and take less vacations. Yeah, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but then what we end up doing is shooting ourselves in the foot by
Yes.
trying to grow too fast or carry all this debt load and all
Mhm.
the servicing that we have to do in our business
Mhm.
just to get up on Saturday and Sunday morning and think about our business because we got to grow. We got to grow. We got to grow because I have to, not
Yeah.
because we want to and it feels right for
Mhm.
the community.
Yeah, you touched on it earlier, which was simplicity.
Mm.
And I found that that's the key. We don't need all this overcomplicated stuff. Yes, we're all very intelligent human beings. Businesses are run very simply.
The good
So,
ones.
right. So when I was young, my parents and everybody that I knew growing up owned a restaurant, and everybody did the math in their heads. So I was like, God, this is really terrible. I can't wait to get out of here and go work for some rich people because I'm sure they've got great systems and they've got all the complex stuff and they're killing it. So lucky me, I get to work for a billionaire business family. And this is while I was a banker. And they were doing the same thing that my parents were doing. they were running a multi-billion dollar international operation very simply. And I was in awe, Marcia. I was like, okay, I was wrong about that. They're very
Jeez.
simple. Mm-hmm.
And I think that takes experience, right? We get a lot of oh, we want to have a nice new car, oh, we want to
Mm-hmm.
show off for this, oh, we got a new partner, whatever it is, or oh, I
Mm-hmm.
need to keep up with the Joneses down the street
Yeah.
that are doing the similar thing that we are. And oh, they've got a new operating system, so now I guess I have to buy a new operating system just to keep up with them. But in reality, you don't. You can have a great company by keeping it simple.
It's so well said. It's refreshing to hear, you know?
Well, it is refreshing to hear
Uh-huh.
because you've got all these salespeople that are coming into your company saying, "Oh, you need this new website. Oh, you need this new marketing piece. Oh, you need this new automated system, or oh, you need this new stuff, right, to make your life easier."
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't. It just makes it harder and another debt on the expense line.
Again, it's very well said. Very well
Hmm.
said. Can you afford it? You know?
Ah, the age-old question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that takes we'll call it worldly experience, no, business experience, but from maybe our parents' generation, right? Instead of our own generation of people that says,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can live off of credit and pay it later, instead of going, oh, well, let me save for it. Or let me figure out, can I make that payment, right? Can I
Mm-hmm.
afford it before I buy it, rather than buying it and going, oh, how are we going to pay for this?
We're living in interesting times. Over the last, let's talk about since like 2007, 2008, that economic downturn. Our country has engaged in a very cheap money policy,
Mm,
okay, which has fueled this craze of money everywhere. And I have young clients, they're in their late 30s, and I try to explain to them it's not always up, up and away. There's such a thing as like a correction. There's such a thing as your sales do go down, and hopefully it's not permanent. And they look at me all wide-eyed. And I tried to explain, the
crazy.
last time there was a downturn in this country, you were 21 years old. You didn't
Mm,
even have this business. And that made me want to work with people that have almost lost their business. That's who I want to work with. Someone who's had that scare, because it changes their thinking and makes them focus on the Marcia reserve account. you know?
I love it. I love it.
uh,
You can coin that. I think
uh,
it's smart though, right? And I think that's what sometimes we need to do is instead of living in um the Bitcoin growth cycle, right?
mhm,
To live in more of the tried and trues, the blue chip companies, the Ford or the Chevy, or whatever, the companies that have been around forever, that have small little growth patterns to them that are sustainable and scalable. And yeah, sustainable and scalable, right? That can really
yeah.
just continue to go on and on and on, rather than hitting
Mhm.
these peaks and valleys and chasing that unicorn effect, that you'll be
Yes.
out of business in a couple years.
Yeah, we don't want that. And
Not at all.
and we have to grow these days because all business owners know very well that all the costs are rising. Your utility bills, your payroll taxes, rent,
Exactly.
et cetera. You can't not grow because just the basic level of increased expenses is going to eat away your profit.
Yes.
But you need to do it Marcia's way, just go slow. I found
Love
that
it.
slow and steady wins the race.
Love it. So play the tortoise, not the hare. Love
Yeah.
it. All right, Manny, this has been fun. Going down the ideas and the concepts. Hopefully, we didn't come up with any earth-shattering, steps and strategies that you need to do in your business, but it was more of a mindset shift to say,
Mhm.
hey, let's do this in a way that can be sustained, right? And so I would love listeners to be able to find out more about you. And I know you've got a great book out there that talks exactly about what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes. So where can listeners find out more?
Sure. My website is mannyskevofilax.com. And there you can find links to the book, which is available on Amazon. And, I have a bunch of really interesting information that my teachers and mentors have shared with me over my career.
Love it. Great blogs, great information on there and tools that you can use. And yeah, so I would encourage you go get that. It's time for a shift as we go into the next. Well, what do we call this? What is 2025? That's the new
It's a
quarter of
transition, is what I would call it,
a
right?
quarter of a century? No,
You
right?
know?
Something like that as we move into this, right?
Yeah.
Into this new us, new era of
Mhm.
business that we should be smarter.
Very well said.
Yeah,
Mhm.
awesome. All right, listeners, I hope you found a few bits of information that you can put into your business that will make you be more profitable. Because again, we're in business for two reasons: to acquire a customer and to create a profit. It's very
Mhm.
simple. So once you've created that customer and you're growing that profit in a way that is sustainable. So I would encourage you to check out Manny's site. Find some stuff in there that will help you shift your mindset a little bit and move in the right direction so you can have that sustainable growth. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're trying to do everything right, but you're just not getting the traction you deserve, it might be time to transform your customer reviews into new clients and more trust. Go grab my free growth and marketing audit at profitboosters.biz. Where in just one session, I'll show you how to turn those reviews into real growth. And don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss future shows. You can always find Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. And we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you so very much, Manny. This was very enlightening and just a nice conversation to have.
Thank you, Marcia. I enjoyed chatting with you.